Class. Hi, this is Dr. Earls and wanted to touch base with you regarding our work in the remainder of this week 6. Sorry for my adjusting to the focus there. And also to touch on next week's work in your second discussion board topic that will be taking place in week 7. First, for Browning, this book, as far as the 3 chapters you're assigned to take care of in this week's work on your book report on the model study, it's probably the easiest as far as my grading your paper, because I'm not looking for a whole lot in the respect of these 3 chapters. It doesn't drill down a lot in laying out a clear strategy. It's a philosophical highlight of what Browning is sharing about Christ the King work in Washington. And so as you go through that, just be looking for, again, in chapter 1, his well curve and hybrid argument, and to then touch on what he has about the Christ the King, small groups and large networking together, and how they go at doing church. In chapter 2, you'll want to talk about what Schaller and Acts brings us as to sales and celebrations, the combination of both of those in the early church practice, and what Schaller has to say about that in chapter 2 as Browning touches there on that reality from church history and scripture. And then also just alluding to briefly the ups and downs of the elephants and mice discussion that he entertains there in chapter 2. And then with chapter 3, just to make sure you touch on pole and spectrum, intimacy and impact, and then reach and range, what he talks about that in that 3rd chapter. So make sure you do those things as far as your paper for this week. Next week, you're going to actually have kind of a primer for your final project. You will discuss the 4 models that are presented in weeks 7 course contents in Blackboard. So go through that, and then again, as you prepare and anticipate your final project, I want to be very clear as to what's expected in that paper, and that is for you to build your ideal church structure that will fulfill the Great Commission. How to cast that vision, set the structure up, and then put into the practice of making disciples that make disciples. And you're looking for a disciple-making movement. So with that phenomenon of how you'll go about reaching people for Christ, sharing the gospel, and making disciples, and multiplying disciples through the way you go about that work of evangelism and discipleship, how will you be multiplying also leaders that will sustain that disciple-making movement? So that's what's being looked for in your last assignment, week 8. The instructions for that are a bit subjective as to interpretation, so I'm wanting to clarify and make clear I do not want you to represent again the 4 models. You've already worked that in these papers. Spend the bulk of your work in developing your ideal church model. You'll bring in the 4 models you've studied per the way you want to build your ideal church structure, and reference those to support your arguments for what you're putting together of that ideal structure. But that's what we're looking for: how to multiply disciples and how to multiply leaders that will sustain that disciple-making movement. So it's all about reading people's gifts, putting them in the right places, and creating that synergy that Jesus talks about in John 17. That out of that kind of serving and fellowshipping comes the tremendous motivation to be sharing and broadcasting Jesus and his great good news. So thanks, class, for your faithfulness in the work. We're almost done. Hang in there, and have a good rest of the week. God bless you. Bye.